Mrs. Eulalia woke up every morning at 5 a.m. At 72, her steps were steady but cautious, like someone who had learned to walk through life without making unnecessary noise. She always wore the same outfit: black slacks, a simple white cotton blouse, and a faded blue apron, marked by decades of honest labor. The Copacabana building had 24 apartments spread across 8 floors. Located on one of the busiest streets in the city center, its 1940s Art Deco facade housed upper-middle-class families, professionals, a few wealthy retirees, and young executives who paid premium rents for the spacious, well-located units. Mrs. Eulalia knew every inch of that building. She knew where the paint peeled on the 3rd floor, which bathroom faucet on the ground floor dripped, and at what time the elevator made that strange noise. She had worked there as a cleaning lady for 15 years, always early, always quiet, always efficient. Most residents barely noticed her. To them, Mrs. Eulalia was just part of the furniture, a constant, invisible presence ensuring the hallways stayed clean, the lobby shined, and the garden plants stayed watered. Some gave her a quick nod in passing, others didn't acknowledge her at all. To them, she was simply the old cleaning lady. Dr. Fernando Mendez, a lawyer in apartment 801, had the habit of leaving his wet umbrella on the elevator floor on rainy days. He never apologized when Mrs. Eulalia had to clean up the puddles. Ms. Marcia from 604 often left garbage bags out at the wrong time, stinking up the hallway, then loudly complained on the phone about how badly the building was managed. The young couple in 203, Bruno and Fernanda, were particularly disrespectful. They threw noisy parties on weekends, left empty bottles in the hallway, and once, Bruno even yelled at Mrs. Eulalia for interrupting his work call by vacuuming at 10 a.m. "That old lady has no sense of time," he told his wife, loud enough for her to hear. "She should work at night when she doesn't bother anyone." Mrs. Eulalia swallowed the humiliation like she always did. She bowed her head, apologized, and continued her routine. But inside, something was stirring, a mix of exhaustion and indignation that had been building for years. The truth is, Eulalia knew the residents far better than they knew her. She knew Dr. Fernando was in financial trouble because she saw the debt collection letters with his name. She knew Ms. Marcia cried alone on Thursday afternoons after a particular phone call. She knew Bruno and Fernanda's marriage was falling apart because she heard their fights almost daily. But what no one knew about Mrs. Eulalia was far more surprising. Her full name was Eulalia Santos Pereira, widow of João Pereira, a Portuguese immigrant who had arrived in Brazil in the 1950s with nothing but a suitcase and relentless determination. João started out selling pastries at a street cart downtown, and over time, he saved enough to buy a small lot in the heart of the city. In 1960, he decided to build what would become the Copacabana building. João couldn't read or write very well, but he understood business. He secured a loan, hired the best architects, and built a structure that became a local landmark. By 1963, the building was complete, and all apartments were sold quickly. The money allowed João to buy more properties and develop other buildings.
João and Eulalia married in 1965.
She was an elementary school teacher. He, a rising entrepreneur. Together, they built a small real estate empire. When João passed away in 2005, he left behind a considerable fortune, including ownership of 17 buildings throughout the city, one of which was the Copacabana. Eulalia could have lived comfortably off rent alone. She could have hired property managers. She could have moved into a big home in a fancy neighborhood. But she made a different choice. She decided to work as the cleaning lady at the Copacabana building. Not out of financial need, but for a reason she couldn't even fully explain herself. Maybe it was nostalgia. João had been so proud of that first building. Maybe it was her way of staying connected to purpose. Or maybe she simply wanted to know the people who lived in the building her husband had built with love. What she didn't expect was to be treated with such disdain. For 15 years, Eulalia observed, cleaned, organized, and silently cared for the building that was hers. She saw families come and go, children grow up, marriages begin and end.
Always invisible.
Always underestimated.
Until one day, Dr. Fernando Mendez called an emergency condo meeting.
It was scheduled for a Tuesday night in the building's party room. All residents received a formal notice. Subject: reducing condo expenses and possible termination of staff. Mrs. Eulalia found out by seeing the flyers being distributed. Of course, she wasn't invited. After all, she was just the cleaning lady. That night, she stayed in the janitor's apartment in the basement, listening to the murmurs from above. Every now and then, she caught a few words: cost-cutting, unnecessary, we can hire someone cheaper. Dr. Fernando opened the meeting by explaining that, after reviewing the building's expenses, he recommended dismissing Mrs. Eulalia and hiring a cleaning company that would come 3 times a week, for less money. We don't need someone here every day, he said. And frankly, the lady's old enough to retire. We'd be doing her a favor. Bruno from 203 agreed immediately.
Totally support it. She works too slowly anyway.
A professional crew would finish in half the time. Ms. Marcia from 604 added, she's always been polite, and her work is good, but if we can save money. The debate went on for nearly an hour. Some defended Eulalia's dedication. Others insisted it was time to modernize. In the end, the vote was close, 12 in favor of firing her, 10 against. Dr. Fernando was assigned to give her the news the next morning. At her usual time, Eulalia arrived and began her routine, cleaning the lobby, watering the plants, straightening the furniture in the party room used for last night's meeting.
That is when Dottore Fernando came downstairs to talk.
Mrs. Eulalia, he began, trying to sound polite, I need to talk to you about a decision we made last night. She stopped cleaning and looked at him. Her eyes were calm, too calm. You're letting me go, she said. Not as a question, but a statement. Well, yes. It was a tough decision, but the condo needs to cut costs. I'm sure you understand.
Nothing personal.
She nodded slowly.
I understand, Dottore Fernando.
When should I vacate the janitor's apartment? By the end of the month would be fine. And of course, we'll pay you everything you're owed. She gave a small smile, so faint it made him uneasy. Thank you for the courtesy, Doctor. May I ask you a question? Sure. Do you know who owns this building? The question caught him off guard. Well, the condo does. Each of us owns our own apartment.
Yes, the apartments belong to you all.
But what about the land?
The strutture?
The common areas. Dr. Fernando frowned. That's recorded at the property registry, I guess. Why do you ask?
Just curious.
After all these years working here, I've always wondered. That afternoon, Mrs. Eulalia visited someone she hadn't seen in a long time, her lawyer. Dr. Rodrigo Santos, young, sharp, and from a family of old friends of the Pereiras, almost spilled his coffee when she explained what had happened. You want to do what? He asked, stunned. I want them to know who I am, she said calmly. And I want them to face the consequences of their choices. Rodrigo spent the rest of the day gathering documents, deeds, property records, contracts. Everything was in order. Eulalia Santos Pereira was the legal owner of the land the Copacabana building sat on, and of all its common areas. That Friday, each resident found a letter in their mailbox.
De lettere Drid Santos e Associates Law Office.
The content was clear, formal, and devastating.
Trattino basso 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 tra. Dear residents of the Copacabana building.
We hereby inform you that our client, Mrs. Eulalia Santos Pereira, legal owner of the land and common areas of the building located at Rua das Flores, 1847, is terminating the agreement for free use of the aforementioned common areas. As documented, Mrs. Eulalia is the widow of Mr. João Pereira, original developer of the property. Out of generosity, she has allowed free use of the lobby, hallways, party room, garden, laundry area, garage, and other shared spaces for decades. However, following the decision made at the October 15th condo meeting to terminate Mrs. Eulalia's employment, she has chosen to re-evaluate that generosity. Effective December 1, 2024, use of the common areas will incur monthly charges at market rates. A lobby and hallways, 800 Brazilian reals per apartment.
Party room, $2,000.00 per apartment. Garden, $300.00 per apartment.
A garage, 1,200 Brazilian reals per parking spot. A laundry room, 400 Brazilian reals per apartment. Total, Without garage, 3,500 Brazilian reals per month. Total, with one parking space, 4,700 Brazilian reals per month. Alternatively, Mrs. Eulalia is willing to sell the common areas for 2.4 million Brazilian reals, to be divided proportionally among the units. If there is no interest in purchase and fees are not paid on time, access to common areas will be restricted. Sincerely,
Dottore Rodrigo Santos, ESQ. Trattino basso 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 tra.
The building went into chaos. Dr. Fernando rushed to the janitor's apartment, where Eulalia still lived.
MRS Eulalia.
You need to explain this. She opened the door calmly, wearing her same faded blue apron.
Good afternoon, Dottore Fernando.
How can I help you? This letter, is this some kind of scam?
You can't own the building.
I don't own the apartments, doctor. I own the land and the common areas. It's all in the letter. Dr. Fernando turned red.
This is outrageous.
I'll sue you for extortion.
You're welcome to, doctor.
My attorney is fully prepared to present all the documentation. He even recommends you consult a real estate lawyer to verify everything. Within days, residents were scrambling. They formed groups, consulted lawyers, read every document, and all confirmed the same thing. Mrs. Eulalia was absolutely right. Bruno from 203 tried to negotiate. Mrs. Eulalia, you can't do this to us. We've been neighbors for years.
Yes, Bruno. Neighbors for years.
Do you remember when you said I should work at night to avoid bothering you? He had no words. Or when you yelled at me for vacuuming at 10 a.m., I was stressed.
It wasn't personal. No, Bruno. It wasn't personal.
And this isn't personal either. It's just business. The residents couldn't afford the new fees. Some tried to sell their apartments, only to find out that units without access to common areas lost a lot of market value. Then Ms. Marcia from 604 approached Eulalia with tears in her eyes. I want to apologize, she said. I always treated you like nothing. But you were always more than a cleaning lady. You were taking care of all of us. Eulalia invited her in for coffee. Can I ask you something, Ms. Marcia? She said. Those calls every Thursday that leave you upset. It's your son, isn't it?
Marcia nodded, crying.
How did you know? I've gotten to know all of you over the years.
Your son lives far, right?
Only calls when he needs money. He lives in Europe. Never visits. Only calls when he's in trouble. Eulalia took her hand. Sometimes, we need to stop giving everything to people, so they finally learn to value us. You're doing that to us now, aren't you?
I'm doing it for myself, and Marcia. For 15 years uno let myself be invisible.
But I have value. And my work always had value. That night, a new meeting was called. This time, Eulalia was formally invited. She walked into the party room wearing her best dress, navy blue from her teaching days, polished black shoes, hair in a tidy bun. She wasn't the cleaning lady anymore. She was Eulalia Santos Pereira, businesswoman, landlord, leader. Good evening, she said. I assume we're here to talk about the letter. Dr. Fernando tried to act authoritative. We need to renegotiate. The rates you proposed are impossible. They're market rates, she replied. I consulted 3 real estate agencies. A resident asked, But why are you doing this?
We respected you.
Really, she said gently. Do you even know my last name? That I was a teacher before? That I was married?
De tu nueva story.
The room went silent. For 15 years, I was just the old cleaning lady.
Invisible.
Useful when needed. Ignored otherwise. Bruno tried to speak up. But, ma'am.
Let me finish.
When you fired me, you said it was doing me a favor. Like I was a burden. No one asked if I enjoyed my job. If I needed it.
If my years of dedication meant anything.
She paused.
My husband built this place with love.
He believed a building was a community. I tried to be part of it. I worked not just for money, but for something greater. Then she added, "But I've learned something. To be respected, sometimes you have to stop being invisible. And to be valued, you have to show your worth." Ms. Masha stood and said, "We're sorry. Truly. What can we do to fix this?" "You can start," Eulalia said, "by calling me by my name. Eulalia. Not the cleaning lady. And the common areas?" someone asked. "I have a proposal," she said. "Hire me, not as a cleaning lady, but as your building manager."
Il oversee maintenance, administration, cleaning, everything.
"In exchange, I won't charge for common areas." "What's the salary?" someone asked.
3 times what he earned before.
After all, managing a building is far more responsibility than cleaning it. Even with the raise, it was far cheaper than her letters fees. Dr. Fernando did the math and agreed. "And how do we know you won't change your mind?" "I'll sign a 10-year contract. My lawyer already has a draft." The vote was unanimous. But Eulalia wasn't done. "There's one more condition," she said. "From now on, I'm not just your employee. I'm the owner of the common areas.
I'm your administrator.
I'm part of this community.
My voice matters."
"Of course," said Ms. Masha. "It always should have." "And one last thing," Eulalia said. "Let this be a lesson. Every person in your life, the janitor, the waiter, the cashier, has dignity, has value. A job doesn't define their worth." Months later, the Copacabana building was transformed. Cleaner, more organized, and with a stronger sense of community. But the biggest change, the people.